this is Dan Nielsen with Genuine Pest Control in Omaha, Nebraska and Council Bluffs, Iowa. And you're listening to the world's #1 pest control training podcast, the Pest Geek Podcast with Franklin Hernandez.
Pull out your hose and grab your can. We're about to integrate another Pest Geek podcast. Hi, everybody. Frank Hernandez here, and welcome to the Pest Geek podcast, bringing you the latest information on pests, products, and politics from today's leading industry sources to help you start, manage, and grow your pest control business.
Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to another edition of the Pest Geek podcast. I am Frank Hernandez, your Pest Geek, here discussing all things pest. We want to remind our audience to join in on the revolution. That's right, join in on the conversation, be part of the society. Pest Geek Podcast Listeners Group on Facebook. And we're on YouTube, we're on the web, pestgeekpodcast.com. Check out there the notes, everything that we put into the podcast. They're all on there. And now for today's topic. All right, I got on the phone Adam Malanga. Adam, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you, brother. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. I know we've talked in the past. We had met up. You linked up with me. This was almost probably about a year back, and we were discussing, what you could do for us as a company. Yeah. At that time, we were not ready to do anything, but we're going to get there. We're growing at a phenomenal pace this year. We've been growing at about 25% a year. And this year we're growing probably at a rate of about 40. And the biggest challenge that we have is getting the people on board. We can find the customers. We can't find the people to do it. And we've been discussing a lot of things that you were able to do for us. And, we just weren't able to hook up. But I love to have you on the podcast because I believe that what you have is really valuable for the pest control industry and pretty much any industry, not just pest control, but any industry. But tell the audience so they get to know you, because obviously a lot of people probably haven't heard about you. But go ahead and talk to them about, where did you come from? How did you get into the pest control industry? And where did you get started there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I appreciate it. Thanks for an opportunity this morning to share a little bit. Yeah, so it's kind of a funny thing. I worked in the lumber industry for years, and decided to quit my job because my boss was a jerk. And so I had several different places I had set up interviews with, and I actually went on an interview with another lumber company, thought I had the job, so I blew off an interview later on that afternoon with Orkin. Well, turns out that job didn't come through, and so I looked like an idiot, but I called the Orkin branch manager, and he was pretty cool. And I guess it was meant to be, because almost 30 years later now, I'm still messing around in the pest control industry. So I started out as a termite sales guy for swarm season, and did well. Just applied some sales skills that I had previously, and seemed to work out really well. From there, went into commercial pest control sales, into pest control service manager, termite service manager, branch sales manager. Went into region sales management position, covered the 9 branches in the region. Did region management, that same region, for about 11 months. And then and I left, went to work for another big company, some green colored company, and worked with them for about a year and a half. Ran a couple of branches with them, did very, very well. Left there, went back to Orkin as a district sales manager, selling commercial only in a 2-state area. Did extremely well there. And then went to work for a commercial only company for a short period of time before they had some struggles. And then into ministry, but I stayed in the pest control industry. So for the last 9 years have been consulting small business guys, pest control operators in how to grow their business, basically. There's a lot of small business guys start out working for another pest control company, get tired of what they get fed by a large company, decide that they can do that by themselves, and then they find that that they're overwhelmed by business, the business side of it. It's not just about killing bugs, and so that's where I come in. I kind of help them strategize and business plans and things like that. So it's been good.
So you've been doing this now for what?
Been a long road.
9 years?
For 9 years, yeah.
Okay. So that is what I basically, when we, I've run other businesses, so I've had the experience of actually running. There's a difference between being a manager, when everything is pretty much supplied for. Even I find, as you as a former branch manager, and I talked to a lot of branch managers that went out and started, and they were overwhelmed because they didn't understand that they had to do all the 9 hats that they had: service manager and tech and bookkeeping and accounting and sales and marketing, and you got to wear 15 hats, and everybody wants something from you. My phone rings literally 20 times a day, and my text says, "I don't know how you get anything done." And I said, "Yeah, I know. I sometimes I feel what I feel like is a juggler on a high wire rack over Niagara Falls while being set on fire." That's what I feel like. That's how I feel like most of the time. And most of the guys that go into business, they never experienced that because they either did sales and tech work. And most of the sales they did was actually just picked up along the route. They didn't actually go prospecting. They don't know about business building. They basically, and then they struggle like crazy. And so I can testify to that is, the feeling that you're overwhelmed. So how is it that,
Absolutely.
What is it that you can offer, or let's talk about some of the things that you offer to help alleviate that, or where do you see that you can be most useful in that particular area?
Yeah, thank you. Well, for starters, I take this information that I've learned in the pest control industry from 3 really big companies, and then dial it down to the small business owner who has, maybe he's just a solo operator. Maybe he's got, 5 or 10 employees or whatever size, could be, regional or whatever. I focus mainly in these 7 areas. Would be sales training, sales management, operational efficiencies, and that's a huge thing. I do some technical training and consulting on that, leadership development, brand building, and then team building. So some of the things that you're struggling with yourself, right? So those 7 areas really is where I focus my deliverables, if you would. And like I said, I've taken this information from the pest control industry as well as alongside of consulting for the last 9 years. I've been in ministry for 9 years as well, basically starting from zero, and we're almost 10 years into it, and we distribute the gospel into schools. So 34 million of those have gone into public schools across the country. So there's been some challenges along the way, but using those techniques and those strategies and applying those to my relationship with small business owners really make a difference. Just an example off the top of my head, been working with a guy near me for the last 5 years. He'd actually purchased a pest control company. It was a $100,000 revenue company. Had a couple of guys working there, and they were not really into growth when he bought it. And so we started working together. In those 5 years, we've gone from 100,000 to 550,000 in revenue, just working together. Basically, I give the advice, and he takes the action, and it works.
But that's really neat, Adam, that you're using, because we got a lot in common, because I spent the last 30 years of my life in sales. I purely sales since I was probably 19, and I'm about 48 now. So I spent my entire life in sales. It's funny because I took a hiatus from work, from sales and business for about 5 years. And I went into ministry, went into Bible college, went into youth ministry, and so that's ironic that we're doing. I got to work with a lot of schools and did the same thing here, and then I went back into the business world after that. And sure enough, I'm still active in ministry. The time is exhausting to take the time that it takes, but that's pretty neat that you're able to use both of those abilities, to the business knowledge to help expand the ministry, but also then take somebody who isn't really from zero, pretty much. I mean, $100,000 a year in sales isn't a lot in this business. Right. It's basically 80% of about 40% of a one-man route. If you work for a large company, you get stuck with $250,000 $1,000 a year worth of work, and then take it, and that's nice growth, by the way. That isn't like accelerated neck breaking growth that you can't manage, because people grow. I know guys that are growing at 80%, and they're going to start drinking and doing drugs pretty soon if if they don't slow it down. I mean, the problems are just going to overwhelm you. So you taking from that to $500,000 and being able to grow it. And so that's pretty interesting that, and that is good growth. I mean, I talked to my accountant, I want to stay around that 25, 30% growth. Next year, we can probably take on a little bit more, depending if I can get the people, and grow it some more. But that is pretty much, what you want. And you want that steady, nice growth that you can manage and be able to keep your customers happy, your employees happy, because, you start messing up one, you mess up the other. Talk us a little bit about sales strategy. I mean, because I'm in sales. Most people are very interested in sales. How do they get more customers? Let's talk about something that we were discussing about the generational sales approach. And I've done, and even just not generational, but I've done, I started out in business to retail. And then I went in B2B, and then I bought in wholesale, and it's all different depending on how all different types of sales. But in generational selling, there's also challenges of selling to different generations. I'm finding that my generation that I'm starting to sell to right now, which most people are avoiding like the plague, are the millennials. And I'm getting the latter end of those millennials, with now they're starting to have babies and buying homes and having families. And they're not wanting the traditional services that most companies are offering. They're wanting what we started offering. But talk to us about selling to all those generations and what's going on with that, and how does a company that wants to move from selling to maybe baby boomers into a younger generation? How do they do that? What's going on there?
Yeah, no, and honestly, it's a great topic because I find that the guys I work with are struggling with it too. And, my thing is being able to plan out, not be in the fire every day, and be able to pull them out of the fire and be able to work on their business, not always in their business. Right. And so I'm looking ahead for them and some potential problems. And so it led me to doing just a ton of homework on generational selling. And there's some trepidation on our parts. I think don't want to mess with the younger generations because things are going good. But I hope to share some information with you today that'll open your eyes a little bit and help you understand. So can you hear me okay?
I hear you perfectly.
All right, good. So essentially there's 4 generations that we're working with right now, right? The baby boom generation. And those are folks born between 46 and 64. That I'm at the very tail end. I was born in 63. right? So I'm at the very tail end of the baby boomer. So that puts them today somewhere between 54 years old and 72 years old. And for most pest control operators, this is the bulk of your clientele, right? Homeowners with some disposable cash, right? And then then there's the Gen X generation after them, sometimes referred to as baby bust, because it was a substantially smaller generation than the baby boomers, and they're born between 65 and 79, so that puts them somewhere in the 39 to 53-year-old age today. That's you.
That's me.
Right?
I'm a buster.
There you go. There you go. You're a buster, man. There's the Xennial generation, which is kind of a small micro generation in between that, in between the Gen Xers and the millennials. They're born between like 75 and 85. So they're somewhere between 33 and 43 today. So there's a little bit of crossover. And then everybody's favorite, the millennials, and they're born between 1980 and 1994. So that puts them like 24 to 38. So that's kind of the breakdown. But there's some definite differences in how they operate and how they think. So what I kind of wanted to share with you is basically how to sell them. And I think that's an important thing.
It is.
So, baby boomers were defined as really just the biggest population we've ever had. They came after World War II, the Great Depression. They have always been the greatest consumers. They actually became famous for spending every dollar that they earned, which is not good, but that's what they're famous for. And their consumerism really has kind of fueled world economies. So they're essentially responsible for where the world economy is today. The Gen Xers are, like I said, a little smaller than the baby boomers, but they started figuring things out. The internet came about in that time, and so they're familiar with an online approach. And so how we deal with them is actually a little bit more like what we're all used to now versus baby boomers. Excuse me. Like I said, the Xennials are, man, they're like stuck in between. But it's the first generation to really grow up with home computers and the internet. They're super adaptive. But they're really coachable. They got hit the hardest when the economy crashed in terms of jobs, for sure. And then you add on to the fact that they have incredibly high student loan debt. They're struggling, but they're a hopeful generation, and so that's good. The millennials, they grew up and began their careers. Really, every home in America, every home in the world, except for third world countries, had internet connections, computers, and they grew up with some of the, with MySpace and then Facebook coming in. So that's what they grew up with, and so they're intimately familiar with social networking sites. They were the generation that experienced the 9/11 terrorist attack. And I really think that through some research that really has played a big role on their buying decisions. And so we'll talk about some of that here in a second. So what I do want to talk about is we all know how to do business with baby boomers. Really, they're pretty easy, right? Just make a friend, and they want you to come visit, and they want you to show them how everything works and tell them how everything works, and but things started changing after that generation. So let's talk a little bit about Gen X selling. Gen X consumers, again, so these are people that are like 39 to 53, okay, born in 65 to 79. They demand trust, man, from an organization, to the extent that the organization, if it doesn't follow through, like even one time, you're likely to lose them. So if you say, we'll be here at this time to do your service, and you don't show, that may be just enough for them to fire you, right? They want you to deliver on everything that you say you're going to deliver on.
Right.
Gen Xers are infinite do-it-yourselfers, right? That's what they'd rather do, and so when it comes to do-it-yourself pest control, they're going to do that first. So I think that's important to know. So when you start to talk to these people who are, in their 40s, they've probably already tried something on their own.
Right.
73% of Gen Xers tune into YouTube videos on a regular basis, right? So to learn how to do stuff. So if you don't have a YouTube channel or if you're not posting on it regularly, you're just missing out on a really important piece of marketing to this generation.
Let me interject there for a second, because I am one of those guys that I'm a Gen Xer. I did grow up. My first computer was a Commodore VIC-20. I learned to code in BASIC by the time I was 12, and I have a YouTube channel. And what I understand, and from what I know about marketing to that generation and coming forward, is that if you don't have solid instructional content that teaches them how to do it themselves, you're not going to reach them by doing advertising. And what we're used to doing, if you're a boomer, you want to be a marketer all the time. You just want to push product. You want to push, the sale, ABC, always be closing. And what happens is you lose that audience because you don't want to give anything away. And the pest control industry hasn't realized that if you're going to engage in that new media, you have to give something away. And probably the biggest guy that has exemplified that is Gary Vaynerchuk with, jab, 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 right hook. You got to give something away that is valuable. And I've been chastised. I mean, I'm on the groups. I'm everywhere. I have people who see my videos. I give something away that they can use, because what I'm looking for is I understand the stats. I understand the numbers. 80% of them, just like you said, 70-something%, 80% will do it themselves. This is why the pest control industry has only penetrated, really on an average for the last 50 years, a 20% market. 80% will try to do it themselves. They will fail miserably, and then they will give us a call. And what we're afraid of is that if we give the information away, they won't call us. What I found is that it generates an enormous amount of calls for us because they still don't have the other 9 parts that you need, the biology, the chemistry. They're thinking if they do one service with one product, they're going to have huge success. And that's not the case. That there's an enormous amount of information. You might try it once with that pest, and then that pest changed their feeding habit in the winter, and the product you were using no longer works, and they're scratching their head going, but it worked last year. This product's no longer working. I must call a professional. And that's what where we're at. And people need to understand that if you're going to engage online and you're going to be in that market in the video space, I mean, if you don't have something worth them watching, they're just going to, tune you out. You're wasting your time, really, doing videos, unless you're going to give them something that, what you mentioned, they want to try it first. So I just wanted to, make sure that we understood that, because a lot of people are so frustrated with everybody giving away. You go into the groups and people are like just pissed off at the whole world that somebody gave away a secret, that we have in the industry. And they don't understand that everybody's doing that. Every manufacturer in the world is putting out content, teaching people how to do it themselves. And it's just a reality of where we are in the marketplace.
Absolutely. That's a really good point. I don't remember in the last 25, 30 years of pest control industry ever actually using a restricted use pesticide.
No, I haven't either.
So, right?
Yeah.
And so everything we get in our hands now can be bought online by any of your consumers.
Correct.
And so, right, so what's the difference between what we do and what the consumer can get in terms of chemicals? Nothing. And so what I always preach is, listen, it's not about pesticides, right? It's about the knowledge that you have.
Yes.
So share some of that knowledge.
Right.
If you share the knowledge with the guy who's trying to do it, he may see some success, but like you said, what worked last year is not working this year. And who do you think he's coming back to when what he attempted that you helped him with didn't work?
Right. Then
back to you.
And that's exactly it. That's the marketplace of people are going to trust those that help them, and you have to give, and then ask. And a lot of the old school marketers, even guys, I talk to people in this industry that are selling in this industry, to us, the professionals, who still have that, World War II mentality, and they're not understanding that, hey, listen, it's no longer, the loyalty isn't there because you're the brand or whatever. There's a lot of factors that go into us helping us decide who we're going to buy from and what products are we going to buy. And it's usually the guy that spends the most time with me, and his product might not be the best. But you know what? Everything he taught me how to use that product, it works, and he showed me how to use that product. And he spent the time showing me how to use that product. And therefore, I say, I might be able to save a couple of, $1 on a tube or $1.33. It isn't worth it because I know how to use this product. He spent the time with me. And unless you're going to come and do that, you're not going to get the business. And those are the things that we're seeing that people just don't understand. They're thinking it's just pitch, and it's not.
Agreed. That's good stuff. So what I like to do is let me give you a little bit of millennial facts, because I think this is kind of where we need to focus our time, and you'll see why here in a second. I'm going to give you some facts, and then I'm going to give you some strategies on how to connect with them, and then we'll wrap it up with some specific takeaways.
Okay.
And then I'll get out of everybody's hair. That sound good?
Sounds good. I don't have too much hair left, so.
That's funny. I'm trying to keep all I got, that's for sure. So this generation, this millennial generation, man, they're poised to just reshape commerce and how products and services are marketed, how they're sold. They're quickly becoming the most important demographic for brands and certainly for pest control operators. As of last year, millennials have more spending power than any other generation, like $200 billion annually. And by 2020, just a couple of years from now, they'll account for 30% of all sales in the U.S. And that right there is what got me, tune in and to pay attention to what was going on. So let me say this, here's a little disclaimer. If you're a millennial on this call, don't take offense to any of this stuff, right? Those of us in older generation, right? Really, don't take offense. It just is what it is. And those of us in older generations, we tend to classify like every single millennial individual as lazy and finicky. Honestly, you're just going to have to forgive us. We understand that millennial attitudes and behaviors are individualistic, and it's not, most certainly not universal. However, there are some generally accepted traits, right, that can help us understand how this generation thinks, how they shop, what they want, and what informs us of their purchasing decisions. So everyone thinks, and honestly, popular belief says that millennials are broke, right? It's really just not true. Millennials are just entering their wealth accumulation later than baby boomers did, right? So things are just taking a little bit longer for them to get going. The predictions state that the average age of the first-time home buyer for millennial is longer than, later than many generations or previous generations. But their overall spending will continue to grow year after year. So the reason why this generation is on everybody's mind is because they have the greatest lifetime value of any customer in the marketplace. So if you can figure out how to get them now, you're going to keep them for a really, really long time. And this is a big deal. Their spending power approaching $1.5 trillion, and they now have 85 million strong in population across the U.S. So like a third of the U.S. The Center for Generational Kinetics, that's where I've done most of my homework, discovered that Gen Xers and baby boomers are starting to communicate and shop in a way that's very similar to millennials, right? So if you can win millennials, you're in a really good position to start attracting some of these older generations, like Gen Xers, Xennials. So, but if you miss the mark on the millennials, you're going to miss the mark on them too.
Right.
And so this is really a serious topic to me. I don't want to miss anybody, right? Like I said earlier, millennials today are 21 to 39 years old. They're primarily visual buyers and visual learners, right? I think that plays a huge role in how they, how we can attract them and make them our customers. They communicate completely different than other generations in the market. So that center found out through some research that they communicate specifically in this order. So if you're taking notes, this is something to jot down. Texting is number one, right? In many cases, instant messaging apps like WhatsApp is used more than just texting on your phone. Email, subject line being critical there, social media, phone calls, and then in-person visits, right? So it goes completely the other way for baby boomers.
Yeah, let me.
They prefer in-home. Yeah.
Yeah, no, let me, because I that way we can, because I deal with this constantly when I'm talking to people that they're frustrated that people text them about a quote and they won't call them and they won't pick up their phone. And what you got to understand is that's part of who they are. And we've embraced it to the point, Adam, that we have on our website at the top, it says click, call, or text, so that they feel comfortable that they can text us for a quote and we're going to get them a quote. If they give us the property info, we can quote it. And a lot of people have so many frustrations about that they won't pick up the phone. I'll call them sometimes because, they'll call me and say, there's a problem, whatever. And I'll just pick up, it's my habit. Just pick up the phone, give them a call. They're not picking up. So I text them back and I say, listen, I'm trying to fix this problem for you. And they're just texting me back, but they won't pick up the phone. So texting and email, and it's frustrating to a lot of older people that want to talk to somebody and realizing these guys don't want to talk to you. As a culture, they're just more comfortable texting you and saying, can you fix this problem? And, send me a picture. And they text me a picture over and says, okay, that's what you have. Okay, I'll hook it over and I'll take care of it. They don't need you to go over there. They don't want to be interrupted. They're doing their thing, and that is vital to understand that it's going the other way. Forget about direct mail with them.
That's right.
You need to engage them in the platform that they're comfortable with. And the problem is we have this, a lot of older people aren't comfortable doing business over those platforms, and understand that it's not the message, it's the media of the message, and the media has to change. So I thought that was vital because I know that I dealt with it, but I'm totally comfortable with it, and I see so many people, and even on our vans, we're going to put them now that you can call, click, or text, so that they know that that they can, that's part of who we're engaging, because I understand those are the ones calling me going, we want your type of service.
Absolutely.
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, please. That's great stuff. I think that's huge, right? So, if at this point you don't get this, I'm going to restate it.
Okay.
Here's the deal. If you don't change the way you go to market with your service now, you're going to get left behind.
Yep.
Right? And so this is an up and coming generation. Other generations baby boomers included. I'm a baby boomer, right? Honestly, I'd rather just text you.
Right.
Right. And because in like a phone call or in-person meeting takes too much of my time.
Right.
Right. If you text me, man, I can hit you back right away. And so I'm headed this way myself, just in my own buying decisions.
Right.
And so so I think that when you can recognize opportunity and recognize the earlier you recognize it and you do something about it, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah.
I want to be ahead of the curve in the pest control industry instead of trying to figure out what to do after. Right. So yeah, that's good stuff.
Let me ask you this.
Sure.
Here's, the way we shop now, since I grew up in this, I'm in the internet age, online shopping. I rather buy it online for myself than to walk in a store and go shopping for something. I just don't have the time to make it to a store. And when I go to a website, if your pricing isn't on there, you know what? It's a red flag for us, especially for Gen Xers. Your product is too expensive. When you say, I want you to contact me for a demo, your product is so freaking expensive that I don't have the time for it to sit through a 45-minute demo sales pitch. I want it on demand.
Right.
So we're going to revamp our website right now. We're on that point. We're doing instructional videos on how we perform our service, which nobody in the industry is doing. We're putting our pricing up front, which we did testing. And it worked. We didn't lose anything by putting the pricing up front. You either want what we sell or you don't. You're either a fit for our organization or you're not. We're not afraid that we have to get our foot in the door to talk to you, to force you to buy something when it isn't what you want to buy, because that's just the way we were used to doing it. These millennials, they want the pricing. The first thing they're going to hit is that pricing button. And if your pricing isn't on there, something is shifty. We're really going to avoid you. I mean, that's to that point of how these guys, and I've seen them interact, and I've interacted with them. I ask, I do the research, and I see myself. I get to a website, I'm looking for 5 different products, and they're all selling the same darn product. One guy refuses to give me the price. He wants to give me a 45-minute pitch, and I don't have the time for it.
Right.
I want the price. Just tell me what your pricing is. Tell me what you do. Do a video demo. If you can't do a video demo about what you do, something is seriously wrong. I've got people trying to sell me a payroll system. And they wanted me to go and then set up a meeting with them at the bank. I found 3 vendors online to do the same exact thing for half the price instantly. And I don't have to spend 45 minutes with you at a bank. I mean, it's ridiculous. You don't want to change. Here's what happened. Toys R Us. Toys R Us.
Right, exactly.
They didn't embrace it early enough. And looking now, I just lost a store that I love going to, by the way. Actually, it's a destination store. What is it? Brookstone? The one that the technology company, they went under too. And I got people with very old systems that have been doing payroll for 40 years, and they still won't embrace a system. And then you got a company like, Zen Payroll, and they became Gusto, and then, they're just, and then QuickBooks, which, I still love as a company, because they're there with the technology, and it has to be on demand. Nobody wants to spend 45 minutes talking to you unless they're really interested in what you have to say.
Right.
I mean, that's just been my, I don't have the time. When you ask me for a minute of my time, I'm like, dude,
Right.
That's going to cost you, because I just don't have it. It's just, we're so darn busy. That's just where we're at. I think we're at as a society. We're just so busy.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, brother. I just.
No, absolutely. I mean, I'm going to share some of that stuff here in a minute. And I think that, you're spot on, brother. It's good to hear that you're ahead of the curve, because it's going to make a difference in the long run. So, over 50% of millennials use their mobile devices, right, to research products and services. So they're on their phone like all the time. In fact, they check it 45 times a day on average. They can't imagine a world without the internet. 45% of millennials spend more than an hour a day on retail-oriented websites, right? So they're looking on things that they want to buy, right? They and that's how they form their preferences. And they make, all their purchases this way. They want to experience, like an experiential experience,
yes.
right? When they go to a website, they want to be kind of walked through, but you got to get there quickly, right? They have the least established loyalty as customers. However, they are very loyal once they select a brand or service or company. So they are brand loyal. They just have to land on the right place.
Right.
60% of them said that they're often or always loyal to brands that they currently purchase. So the sooner you build a relationship with them and deep connections with them, the better you'll be, because they're going to continue to purchase with you like forever. They're the most likely generation to refer their friends when they have a good experience. So if you can win them over, you're going to win their friends too. So like we always in sales, right? We tried for years, referrals.
Right.
If you do a good job with your millennial customers, they're going to sell for you, and that's huge. They demand self-service solutions, man. They crowdsource customer service options. 81% of millennials really could care less about friendly service. They want fast service. Exactly what you were saying. They have 75% have at least one social media account they use on a regular basis to help inform them of purchasing decisions. And so they want to engage with social networks. 62% of millennials say that if a brand engages with them on social networks, they're more likely to become a loyal customer. So if they've hit your Facebook page and they say something on your Facebook page, you better be hitting them back, right?
Right.
And I've seen it countless times. And I go through on Facebook pages, and you've got 25 comments and not one comment back to the company. That's just crazy.
Right.
So hear this one, guys, because this is big. Blogs are huge, right? Millennials are 247% more likely to be influenced by blogs than any other form of media, right? They, like, compared to TV, magazines, books, 3%. So that'll tell you that they have completely shifted, and they're looking for the blog, man.
Right.
They're not influenced at all by advertising. As a matter of fact, 1% of the millennials that got surveyed said that a compelling advertisement would make them trust the brand more. That's it, 1%. They believe that all advertising, honestly, is spin, and it's just not authentic, man. Right?
Yeah. I'm telling you, the guy. I don't know who's still selling billboard ads when 90% of them have their face buried in their phone at a stoplight.
Yeah, or driving down the road.
Yeah. So yeah, I know, because I'm totally not affected by advertising. I don't know if it's, I'm just I've been in the business too long, where I'm just callous. Or just, everything is, you can't trust. The whole trust factor with millennials, as far as a brand. And here's one thing I want to bring up, Adam. How do you create a brand in pest control that people love? Because it's no longer about kill my bugs and I'll call the local exterminator, have them come and spray. It's about creating a brand that people love. And it doesn't exist in pest control. Nobody really loves, very few brands that people say, I just love this company like the way I love Apple. And that's the mentality of what Apple has created. And what the older generation doesn't understand is that these people are looking for a brand that they love. And the brand has to be more than just about providing that one service. And, and I've seen it. And I've seen it through, the last 10 years that, we've been looking at the marketing. It has to be about something people love. And I think Absolutely. Once they love the brand and they love what you're about, look at Subaru. You know, they're marketing to them now. You know, and that's not traditional millennial product of Subaru, but they're starting to buy them. And so,
absolutely.
So I think that, you know, that's, you know, that you're spot on there trying to get, you know, understanding that they need to, the advertising doesn't work. The traditional advertising doesn't work to reaching millennials. And we know it because we've stopped doing traditional advertising for the last 5 years. And we don't do traditional advertising, and yet we're growing, you know, at a phenomenal rate because that's who we're attracting. I mean, that you're spot on with what you're bringing, and my experience tells me, you know, that what you're telling me is totally true.
Yeah, if you want to stay with traditional advertising, understand that the only people who are listening to you are baby boomers.
Yep.
And that's cool, right? That you're going to get you're going to get a baby boomer for 7 or 8 years, you know, and then they're moving on. You know, they're getting older. Right. But you could potentially have a millennial for 30 years if you do it right. So that's a huge difference, right?
Right.
Last couple of facts on millennials is, and it ties into exactly what you just said. 43% of them rank authenticity over content all the time.
Right.
Right. They connect better with people than logos. And so that's huge to kind of put in your memory bank. They care more about you than they care about the company, right? And the last thing is they remember that whole Enron debacle, right?
Yeah.
So they expect brands to give back to society. 75% that it's either fairly or very important that a company gives back to society instead of just making a profit. So they're looking 75% of them. So they're looking for that on your website.
Right.
Right. So if you're given to the local homeless shelter, man, you need to tell them that.
Right.
Right. And make sure that they get it. So I've got some strategies, and I think that that some of these are really super solid, and some of them we've already kind of discussed, Frank. So that's good. I think the important thing for us to remember is that winning millennials is just not about millennials, right? That we need to keep all the generations in mind, and those companies that and salespeople that will adapt to millennials. Not only will they buy from them, if they don't adapt, they're not going to buy from them. They're going to move to the next guy who has adapted, right? So some of the things you were talking about earlier with, you know, you're going to take 45 minutes of my time, but I can find somebody who doesn't. That's the guy who adapted and who's going to win your business in not only now, but in the future. So,
right.
I think one key focus is relentless concentration on simplification, right? So make your websites easy, right?
Yeah.
And this is an Apple thing, right? They grew up with Apple. That's what they're looking for. Apple makes things super simple, really easy to navigate, and really easy to do business with them. And so they're going to look for that. That's what they know, and they're going to look for that with every purchasing decision that they make. Mobile first strategy, I think that's key, right? I can't tell you, Frank, how many, you know, I've done a little bit of SEO, and how few companies have a mobile friendly site. It's like, man, if you're going to spend any money, that's where you need to put it, in getting your website converted to a mobile friendly.
Yes.
Because they're living on their mobile devices.
Yeah,
right?
no, that's key. I think it's 80% now.
Yeah.
I mean, it used to be like just 2 years ago, it was like 50%. We're going at lightning speed to where, you know, desktop is going to be irrelevant. Probably in the next, I would say, 3 to 4 years. Unless you're and speed, if you can't, you know, if that thing isn't loading up within 2 seconds, you lost them. So for SEO,
Absolutely.
your site needs to load in 2 seconds right now. It used to be 5 to 6.
Yep.
You know, that's amazing. Yeah, the attention span and the demand for speed is what drives that. So
Absolutely. Fast loads and crash resistant mobile interfaces. Huge, right? Because if they crash out while they're checking you out, they're just going to go to the next guy, right? Millennials are raised in that self-esteem time, right? They got a trophy for showing up, right? And they were told that each one of them is special and unique, and they believe that. And I mean, it's true, right? So let them know that you know that, right? And you appreciate their individuality and their accomplishments. Like, that's important. They're in a hurry. Don't waste their time. They believe that every transaction should be as quick and as painless as buying something on Amazon. All right?
yeah,
They have very little patience for long meetings and presentations. They just rather look stuff up online. So when you're communicating with them, consider the length of a text message or a post on Facebook or Twitter, right? Like, it needs to be bite-sized pieces.
Yep.
Be concise, to the point. Don't dilly-dally. Be informative, but be quick, right? Absolutely cut out the middleman. Like, if you're using a call center, if everything points to them, having to call your office and talk to somebody to buy your service, man, you need to quit that, like, right now.
Yeah.
Because that's just they're not going to do it. They're not going to pick up the phone, and you're going to be frustrated, and eventually you're going to be broke. Cashless transactions, right? They don't carry cash.
Right.
Everything they do is plastic, man. And so if you don't give them an opportunity to use that, even when you're on the service, don't expect them to write you a check like the baby boomers.
Right.
Right? Be prepared to take the card and swipe it on the spot, or for them to just do Apple Pay and get you paid, right? They do like premium services. So think like, I've got pest control separated, I got termite separated, but I also have a pest control and termite, bundle package too. So they like premium service options. If you give them that, they're going to choose that. When you talk to them, like, just be yourself, right? Don't try to act younger or cooler. They're going to see right through that.
Right.
It smells like desperation to them. Just be upfront. Let them know how you can help. Don't hold back information, like you said earlier. Disclose everything.
Right.
They're going to look up stuff online.
Right.
They're going to Google you. They're going to Google what you say. They're going to Google everything about your company and the pest control industry at large. If they find out what you're saying doesn't match up, then they're done with you, man.
Yeah, and let me tell you, and let me just, I've experienced that before, because when we do consulting on the phone for all of our clients, we have a process, because we understand it, and we completely say, this is how it is. We disclose the products we're using, because they're asking us about it's going to come up in the conversation. And they want to know what we're using. And I said, look, this is what we're using. This is how we use it. But not only that, what you just said, they're going to Google you. I've actually been in a house where they didn't know what they had. And when they did, and said, look, it's an ant problem. I'm pretty sure it's this ant problem that you have. When we got there, I ID'd the ant problem. The guy's going on our website and Googling that while I was sitting there doing the work, reading up on the documents. And I know they do that. And I say, look, we put links in all of our estimates. Says, look, this is what we believe you have. This is the process. This is the best process according to our university website. And you can Google it. So you don't have to go and, try to find some marketer trying to sell you some junk. Here's the facts. And you can look that up. And we provide all that up front for them, because that credibility is vital to them, what you just said. So we've done all that. We're doing that. And this is the secret to what I think what you're displaying and our success in growing this market, where we're not an eco-friendly market. Miami is not. This is not San Francisco. Okay, this isn't New York. It's very tough to sell it here. And when I was told I was going to sell it, people told me I was nuts. I would never sell it. We can't keep up. I mean, to the point we can't keep up right now.
You're killing it.
Yeah. So, and we're not, like I said, we're not doing traditional marketing. It's all online. It's all about putting out the best content that they can trust. And when we put up reputable information, here it is, verify it, because they're going to. You need to get off that fear. And a lot of the guys, I think that and what you're describing, and a lot of the people that I talk to, it's that fear that we've been taught we don't disclose what we do, because if we disclose it, they're just going to go do it themselves and we're going to lose the client. And understand that that's the norm now. What you're afraid of is what's keeping you from succeeding. Your biggest fear is that's what's keeping you from succeeding, because that's what I see the most, and I see it all the time. And we're in the groups, we hear the conversations, and it's like, I don't get it. I mean, to me, when I hear that conversation, I'm like, I don't get it. I mean, that's just, I guess, because I'm partially, I guess, a Gen Xer. I was 1970, so, but I completely embrace the millennial mentality, and I'm hiring millennials. I mean, we have to hire them. Most people don't want to, but we're hiring them, and they're saying they're lazy, and they're not. You've explained all that. One of the guys that I deal with, to give you an example, at the government, that I do a city, the kid who's in charge of all the parks and recreation is a millennial. He's the one that makes the buying decision for the city, and he's a millennial. So I think that definitely the shift needs to start happening, and the quicker you're saying it, the quicker they do it, and the the more successful they're going to be faster. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. And like, so you said that you added links into your proposals, right? So this is a big deal for them, right? They're gonna Google stuff, right? So give them, it's a great strategy. Give them the site that you trust, rather than ones that they may randomly find. Right. So your idea of giving them a link to the university, that's huge, right? Because there's trust there, and the fact that you trust that university and what they say, and you shared that with them, that just made their decision a whole lot easier.
Right.
Remember, I said they don't have a whole lot of experience making decisions, right? And so they need a little help getting there. And so by you doing that, you've helped put yourself in a position for them to trust you, against somebody else. So that's huge. And we've talked about this a couple of times, right? And so this is really important. I know this is a tough one, but they're looking for transparency. If they can't find your pricing on your website, they're moving on.
Yep.
Right. And, historically, we've never wanted to share what our pricing was because our competition would know, and blah, 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 blah. So I'm going to frame this for you. First of all, the shift here is not you competing against your competition out there, right?
Okay.
That's not the case anymore, right? What's really going on is that you are communicating with a generation of buyers, again, not just millennials, but Xennials, Gen Xers, and baby boomers are headed this way. You're communicating in a way so that they want to do business with you. Forget about your competition. Yep. It just honestly doesn't matter what they're charging, right? Because if a millennial or Gen X or whatever is looking for this information and you're the guy that has it, you're the guy that's going to get that business, regardless of what your competition does, right? Because your competition won't post their pricing. They won't tell anybody what they do. They just say, we're going to take care of your problem. That doesn't work anymore, right? So give them what they're looking for.
Right.
And you're going to get a whole lot more of them than you think you are. It just doesn't matter what your competition is doing. So so try it out. Put your toe in the water, right?
Right.
Share some of those fixed price services, right? So, we charge X amount for quarterly. Let them know, right? Because if somebody called in, how much is a quarterly service? It's $115 a quarter or whatever.
Right.
Right? Let them know up front. That's what you charge. And and most importantly, is give them an opportunity to buy it on the spot, right? So that's huge. I know this is tough, man. It's a mind shift on us.
Yeah.
Especially those of us who have been in the industry for a longer time, right? But again, if we don't make the changes now, we're going to get behind the curve, and the guy who's doing this stuff that I'm sharing with you today is going to gobble up the business. So I'd rather that be you than somebody else, right?
Right.
You need to be an expert, right? Be a consultant to them. You're a guy that has the solutions to their problems, and that's how you develop a relationship with them. One of the things that Apple has done is they opened the eyes to problems they never knew that they had, right? And then present solutions afterwards. That needs to be you, right? So, if they're talking about, if you're talking about moisture control and how reducing moisture control keeps them from getting termites, that's a big deal, right? And the old, buy now sales pitch, not going to work, man. Stop selling to millennials. It's just not going to work. You give them any kind of pressure, they're just going to go find somebody that won't.
Right.
Stop the old, TV, radio stuff, right? And start focusing on what really matters. And what really matters, kind of what I talked to you about earlier. I know staffing is an issue in our industry, right? I think it's a valuable, I think it's a hugely valuable position to have somebody on board who's hot on social media trends, and that that you need to invest in the time and the money to put into those people.
Yep.
And that money comes from dropping some of these other platforms. Like if you're still doing Yellow Pages, put that, right? But you'd be surprised.
Adam, what's a Yellow Page?
Right? No, but, I mean, right? And this may work for baby boomers, especially the older ones.
Yeah. Still
getting Yellow Pages. Everybody still gets Yellow Pages delivered to the house, man. Right? I use mine as kindling. Right? So, stop doing it, man. Stop spending your money there and reinvest your money in maybe having somebody on board part-time, a millennial that can do some of this Facebook marketing for you, because I think it's going to pay dividends in the long run. One more thing, make it easy for millennials to share with their friends, right? If you have a way for them to do shout outs for you, tag you, whatever, in posts, that's huge. Their friends are waiting to hear what happened with the friend who just bought their service from you. So tell them. So I've got some pretty specific takeaways. Frank, you got anything?
No, go ahead. I'm just listening.
Okay. All right, good. So obviously by now, I hope that you figured out that millennials are different, way different than baby boomers, Gen Xers, and that's okay, right? They're bringing all these new trends into the market, and it'll help keep your business in a loop if you stay on top of things. I also know there's a ton of information, so let me just dial it down into just a few key things I think to remember, and some action steps to take, like now.
All right.
Man, just be you, right? Just be you. Blogging is big. And if you're not blogging, start today. If you suck at it, that's okay, right? They care less about how polished you are and more about how authentic you are. And if you really want to take it to the next level, do a vlog, right? A video blog, right? Because they love those videos, man.
Right.
Keep them short, like 30 seconds, 45 seconds. That's about all the time they got. The cool thing with blogs is that if you're doing a blog on a separate platform like Blogger, Tumblr, Medium, Squarespace, if you're doing a separate, using a separate platform for that, you can actually link back to your website, and it gives you some links for SEO purposes. If the blog's internal, that's like on your website, then you can link to specific pages on the website, and like a pricing page or an about section or like the videos that you mentioned, right? The how-to videos kind of deal. But whatever whatever you do, man, start blogging. Be relatable, right? Remember that everything happens like super fast for them, right? So if you advertise on Facebook, Instagram, stuff like that, and by the way, if you're not, you're losing out big time. If you're going to do some marketing, those are the platforms you need to be on. Make your communication short and sweet, man. Gear your ad towards what makes them click, right? That business, and this is what makes them click. Business with you is easy and painless, right? Keep your text to the size of a tweet, and man, everything will go smooth for you. And that's a really big deal. Make doing business with you easy, as just like buying something on Amazon. Your website should be clean, super easy to navigate. Like, don't make them work hard to find numbers from you, right? Let them know what you do, how you can solve the problem, and just give them a way to buy from you without having to talk with anyone. Like I said earlier, if you can put some pricing on the site, man, I think that's absolutely huge. Don't be scared of it, because I think it helps you. And if you do that, give them an opportunity, like a click. Just click on to buy that service right now. Like, anytime you get share price, give them an opportunity to just click it and buy it. Kind of put it in their shopping cart. If you get good at those three things, just be you, be relatable, and be easy to do business with, man, you're gonna have a clientele packed full of millennials. If you need help on any of this stuff, help growing your business, I'd love to chat with you. My website is AdamMalanga.com. ADAM, like the first guy, MALANGA. Can't mess that up. It sounds worse than it is. AdamMalanga.com, or you can shoot me an email, AdamMalanga@me.com, and I'll be glad to help you out if you need some help. So
awesome. By the way,
and that's about all I got.
Yeah, you know what? Have you ever had a malanga? You know what it is, right?
I do know what it is.
Yeah,
it's would bring that up.
Yeah, no, it's a root vegetable. Yeah, it's actually
like a potato.
Yeah, it's a staple of Caribbean. I believe also in Spain, they have it. Yeah. But it's a staple throughout all the Caribbean. So you must have like some Spanish roots in your Maybe. Family, because I'm an Italian.
I'm Italian from New York, so there's something there. I'm sure, man. But I had a lot of Hispanic friends, mostly from Puerto Rico and New York, and they call me like Mr. Potato Head. So and that's okay.
Yeah. No. So for anybody. Yeah, so now they can associate, but see, now you give them a visual that they can remember you by, Hey, the whole idea in marketing, buddy, is to be memorable. If you're not memorable,
there you go.
So, I'd rather be memorable than, just be bland. So, hey, man, I've had a blast. Thank you so much for being on. I know that this information is very beneficial for a lot of people. And like I said, just look him up. If you need some assistance growing your business, the man knows what he's talking about. So I really do appreciate it. I hope that sometime soon, I know that I'm going to plateau. And here's, something that, we'll just be honest about. I'm going to plateau. I'm going to get to the point in my business where I can only take it so further. And I'm going to need people like you. I've got a list of people that I know that I'm going to need when I get there. And it's a matter of where you are in your business. And if you're not growing and you're frustrated, you really need to get help. And a lot of the time you're going to people that are they're doing the same thing you are, and they're plateaued too. I mean, if you're in the groups and a lot of people are there, they're in the same boat. And I'll get to probably, 500,000 and I'll plateau and I'm stuck and I'm like, what do I do? And I'll be at 1 million and I'll be plateaued and I'll be at 2 million. And everybody gets to a place in their career or their business that they'll get stuck and they're going to need somebody. And the idea is get somebody outside of the box that's looking at it from the outside, who's not emotionally attached, because we get too emotionally attached to our stuff. And we don't want people telling us what to do, coming into our business and telling us somehow we're doing it wrong. And sometimes that's what you need to hear. that you're doing it wrong and where you're doing it wrong, you know, and most people have a wife to tell them that. You know? But if you don't, you know, if you don't have a wife in your business, then you need one. And so I do appreciate what you're doing and what you've done. And I'm sure that, you know, sometime in the future, we're going to be, you know, like I said, I got a list of people that I know how to do it. And just right now, I'm just riding this hog as long as I can get it, you know, get it done, man. So we're getting there, but I do appreciate your time, brother, and coming on and talking to us.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
All right, bro. I'm gonna get.
Me, man.
Hopefully,
God bless you.
Hopefully, God bless you too, bro. Hopefully, this will be on for next week. I'll be edited and out the door for next week, and I'll send you a link, and then you can, you know, send it out to all your tweet friends.
Awesome, man.
All right,
Thank
brother.
you so much, bro.
Thank you, man. Take care.
I'll talk to you soon.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
We hope you have enjoyed this edition of the Pest Geek Podcast. Until next time, have a pestacular day.
Thank you for listening to the Pest Geek Podcast. If you have enjoyed the Pest Geek Podcast, please give us a rating, write a review, or subscribe to the channel. You can join the Pest Geek Society by visiting pestgeekpodcast.com. Thank you for listening. See you next time.